Hey RATBAGGERS, it's Jade today going over the secret changes in the latest PTB for the Hairy and Scary update. This update is in PTB, which means public test branch at the moment, so you can only access it if you're on the Xbox Insider Hub. Go and download that app if you want to try it early. Your progress will carry through and it's moderately safe as far as I know. I've not seen anyone complain that the world's been lost or any crazy changes. Just once you're in the PTB, don't ever leave it. As soon as the update hits everyone on the 30th, your PTB will just automatically transfer into the regular game of Grounded. Likewise, the same on PC. I've done a video on how to access it, so go and watch it. It'll be in the comment section down below. What we're doing today though, we're going over them data mined stuff that hasn't been shown off properly in the patch notes. And we're also going to talk about nerfs and why people need to chill a little bit. Plus go over the known issues with the PTB, especially to do with Axel disappearing when you try fighting him. And yeah, let's cover that properly. At the moment, if you're playing on Xbox, especially the Axel boss fight, it is disappearing and you're going to have to reload your save because you might not even get your food back. I don't know if it pops out at the time, but lots of you reporting. The fix for the moment is don't fight him near the edges. If you go anywhere near the entrance, it's got a chance of happening. If you go any close to his little holes and the edges of the arena, it can also happen there too. So if you want to take him on, then make sure you try and stay in the middle as much as possible. Little side note, there's a bug at the moment where you can literally jump on top of his back after you've attacked his actual weak spot and stay on there by just jumping at the right time when he tries shaking you off. It is useful, you will be able to carry on doing damage to him, but at a certain point you might notice in each phase he becomes invincible. Like it doesn't matter how much damage you're doing to him if you've been using this kind of glitch, he just won't take any more damage until he begins the rest of his phase. So I'm pretty confident that stuff will all be fixed before it goes live for everyone on the 30th. And yeah, a few other known issues, things like flickering in the arena, which was pretty bad. That's the main ones. So let's go through this secret data mine stuff. Big shout out to Apex Predator. Put this post up on Reddit. Let's properly read his key takeaways first, and that's probably something you want to bear in mind before we start reading all the doom and gloom about nerf. Key takeaways. Ambush is no longer the thing builds are made around, but now an addition to a build. It no longer one-shots creatures, but is a good opening to combat encounters. Rogue has been slightly nerfed, mainly the Assassin has gotten about a 10% reduction. Weapons and armor remain unaffected. This patch doesn't destroy the playstyle. Use stun for Axel, that is the best way to fight him. Snail armor no longer requires snail shells to be repaired. This wasn't listed on the patch notes. The Great Bow currently also isn't doing as much damage as it should with its charge shots, so that's a bug at the moment. So Reliable Friend has been nerfed. I'm not necessarily going to read all of these stats because we'll be here all day, but it's obviously a lot down compared to what it was. That seems like a bit of a pointless nerf because it's kind of already takes a bit of time to go ahead and revive your buggy. But hey ho, Beastmasters out there and stuff, something you're going to have to deal with a bit more. They've nerfed the OP-ness of turrets that apparently were doing 400% damage against all creatures. They've buffed the Myrmecologist trinket. It now only makes the player take 15% more damage instead of 30% more damage. Things you probably should know already. Don't think they're changed from other creatures. But the Tarantula wall mount will deal 15% more damage against it for 15 minutes. Whereas if you want to get more loot, you've got a 20% chance of gaining more when you've got the stuffed tarantula claw. The big one that I think most people are going to complain about is ambush. It's now been reduced to 50, 80 and 100% critical hit damage instead of 170, 270 and 330. Now come on guys, that is a huge nerf, but it also means that in the first place it was obviously way overpowered. There's a discussion around this. When we first got told about the builds, I was really excited that we might actually finally have a proper stealth assassin class. As it turns out, not quite so. You don't even have to crouch, you just need to go and use your special attack on an enemy if he doesn't see you. So not true stealth, but I guess an easier version of stealth. So immediately that already makes it much better than it was before. So you can understand why they might want to nerf some stuff, given that a lot of people are just using this to one-hit a lot of creatures. I think, yeah, it should still pretty much one hit level 1 if you're on level 3. If you're on level 2 with your gear, then it should at least do half damage or close to killing them. But if you're at the same level as other creatures, I think, yeah, at half level, that might be the best kind of damage. It's only maybe when you get to tier 3 that you should be able to do this with fully upgraded gear and maybe take an enemy's health down to quite a lot. And bear in mind, they might be balancing for the future with tier 4 5. That's when we might one-shot a lot of these creatures. But one-shotting creatures with literally like mighty claws and wearing tier 1 gear, that doesn't make sense. That's not correct balancing for a game. Yeah, it's fun for sure, but you can see why it has been nerfed. People are going to say, oh, it's a PvE game. Why do you have to do this? I want to get to that in a minute, but I will just say this. They still have to balance it for the next 2 years. If a game's too easy, people just complete it and piss off and never return. Some people want that sense of satisfaction. There's definitely a balance. The Smash Up Mastery perk now gives more damage, 25% stun instead of 20, and Frenzy now works with sickles. Now I really like this change. I used it to take on a Mantis and I just absolutely smashed him. And with tier 3 gear taking on a tier 3 enemy, it was literally seconds that I took to kill a tier 3 enemy. They have nerfed Sharpshooter. At the moment, there's a bit of an exploit. If you're at level 2 of Sharpshooter, temporarily it's giving 80% damage when it really should only be giving 10%. Assassin has been nerfed as well by pretty much 10% across the board, and they have nerfed Assassin Dash Strike as well. Blistering Boiler isn't as effective as it was, been half the damage it does, pretty much. And Rogue Armor have been reduced by 1%, so not a huge nerf, but basically the critical hit chance in the third hit combo is now only 3% instead of 4%. And tier 2 and tier 3 bows have had their multiplier damage decreased as well. Like I said, I think this one could do with a bit of revision. It sounds like they are probably going to add blocking to bows in the future, although like I said, I hope they really don't. I really want them to add mini crossbows instead. I think that'd be really cool. I could open up a subclass of being able to shoot the mini crossbow and block with your shield. I think Ranger class should be not able to perfect block every attack. Otherwise, what's the point in it having a specialist role if it can just do everything everyone else can? But they have gone and nerfed it. I guess the mix of certain elemental arrows and the abundance of candy now, where it's a lot easier to get most of them, means some people probably are doing a lot more damage than they intended. The wolf armor has had a slight reduction with the hood, but the leggings have had a slight increase. I don't know why they've done that. Again, that might just be a bit of a typo, i.e. from the developers, and it was meant to be reduced. Or maybe it's to help if you're swapping out helmets to get different types of buffs with the rest of the sets. And I've done the same thing again to snail stuff. The helmet's been reduced, but the leggings have been increased slightly. And yes, no more snail shells. Instead, you need snail eye stalks, snail slime, and web fiber to be repaired instead of snail shells. Mosquito needle's been slightly changed by 1% down. Mighty claws also, northern shredders, icicles, weaver fang daggers, wolfsbane daggers. They've all been reduced somewhat with their critical hit chances. What you might notice though is none of these weapons have had any nerfs to their actual power in terms of damage. It's only the critical chance that's been decreased. So when that critical chance does trigger, you are still going to be doing a lot of the same damage. They've just slightly reduced how much times you can actually do the critical. Perfect blocking now deals 5 stun instead of 8, and a bunch of arrows have now been reduced, around 8, 5 or 10 in most cases. Normal shots as well as charge shots. So when you read some of these, 5 damage isn't the end of the world, but then you see something like venom arrow damage has gone from literally 78 to 66, so that's a 12 reduction. Or the crow arrow damage is now 60 instead of 70. It does feel like that's quite strong nerfs, but I want to play around with the arrows a bit more. I can't lie, it's not something I jumped into yesterday when I streamed. I was more focused on Axel and just taking on other creatures to show that the rogue build was okay. But yeah, for sure, if they're nerfing stuff like this, they should probably change something to do with some of the trinkets we've already got. In fact, that would be even a better one, because then that encourages people to really lean into being an archer. Not just maybe some new trinkets, but actually buff the armor itself. Because with this, anyone could take advantage, right, of all these moves. And although Grounded's been saying you can mix and match and do what you want, the archetype roles are obviously embedded in the game for a reason, to signpost stuff a bit easier so you can work out what kind of build you're going for. So it probably would be a good idea to buff the armors, and that's a happy medium then. People who really want to invest in Ranger will get the benefits, and people who don't, well, they're still viable to use now and then, but it should be supplementary to whatever other build you've got going on. Northern Scorpion armor set bonus completely disables an enemy's ability to move instead of instantly stunning them. Scorpion Trinket does 10 more stabbing damage in addition to previous effects. They have reduced the stun attack from the Northern Shredders as well. Little Fist Mastery Effect bonus now deals 1 smashing damage and 2 stun instead of 5 true damage and 6 stun. Dual wield weapons have had a 5% decrease in their 3rd hit combo, and critical hit damage is now 1.5 instead of 1.7. They have increased the health of wolf spiders as well as praying mantises. People saying that they've obviously increased how much they damage or do damage. I don't think they have. Just it's taking you longer to kill them. If you want to go and check all this stuff out yourself, I'll leave the link to the actual Reddit post and you can go and read all through the patch notes. So there we go. I know when I did my patch notes, I labelled it a nerf because it is. Like, that's what it is. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world. And I'm not naming and shaming people here, but you know, if you comment on my videos, I'm going to show them off sometimes. This isn't a PvP competitive game. No one is forcing any of you to play rogue daggers. Nerfs are not welcome. Whatever itch I had to play again and maybe finish my base is now dead. Good luck. Now come on, that's such an over-exaggeration. Grounded as at the beginning of a 2-year phase of early access. They're going to change and adjust pretty much every facet of the game, I'm sure. Weapons, armors, how much damage they do, how much bugs. We've got so many new bugs to come in. They're going to continually evolve and change things as they go, just like they did with Grounded 1. And this is the concept that some people just don't understand. They're treating Grounded 2 so much like a full game. I would get the upsetness when a full game changes and messes around with stuff. Unless it's a live service game, there should be no real need to do a lot of that unless it's affecting gameplay really negatively. But the idea that people are just going to like quit and that's it because they've nerfed stuff by like 10%, give me a break. Again, no constructiveness here either. No maybe ways to solve it. You can be disappointed, you can say you don't like something, but the idea that people are going around saying they're quitting the game is kind of preposterous. I tried answering him back. One shot in tier 2 and 3 enemies isn't balanced. Some nerfs may be too harsh, but man, so sick of all this crying over updates in an early access game, as if in 2 years they aren't allowed to balance stuff just to keep the OP boring meta because numbnuts can't get good. Yeah, a little bit harsh, but I kind of like winding people up, especially when they're being so ridiculous. Apart from this guy's big rants, he has got a good point. You could go ahead and adjust and improve a lot of the other builds instead of necessarily nerfing the one that's the most popular. But that's a hell of a lot of work, right? Also, it doesn't stop the game from becoming too easy. Other people, I hate nerfs in a non-competitive game, and I don't care what anyone says. Rogue has been too powerful. All I hear is nerf, 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 nerf. But people neglecting like the 100 actual bug fixes. I said 50 here, but it's definitely a lot more. So you get the point. There's a few comments more like this, and I've seen it across Reddit and in other places. People just moaning and saying that stuff has been unfair. And you can say that. But the idea that you're going to quit the game or go and leave a negative review, that is kind of bullshit. You've been seeing some footage from me taking on the Mantis, running around using different builds. I think most people that are actually talking about these nerfs haven't even gone and tried them out fully yet. So that's where we're at the moment. Nerfs are going to happen. There is going to be big changes. You can absolutely say you don't like it, but it's a 2-year program. We need to give feedback to the developers, but we also need to understand they take data from other places too. And we've got to think about the big, wider picture. Try and come up with some suggestions about what needs to be improved. And there you go. I'll always tell you it straight, whether you agree with me or not. That's all the secret changes so far that we found. I'm sure there might be more, and there probably will be more updates between now and the 30th when the game goes live. So until next time, Ratbags, I'll catch you later.